Study Session 6. Educational Institutions. Introduction. So far, you have learned about the meaning of social institutions and two of the major types of social institutions in the last study sessions. You will recall that in Study Session 2, you learned something about the marriage and family institutions, and in the last study session, you learned about economic institutions. In this study session, you will learn about another important social institution in human societies. This institution is called the educational institution. Go through the study session carefully and attempt the self-assessment questions at the end of the session. Learning outcomes. At the end of the lecture, students should be able to 1. Define and use correctly all of the keywords printed in bold. 2. Discuss the role of education as a socialization agent. 3. State the effects of education on social life. 4. Identify the problems of the educational institution. Meaning and function of educational institutions. What is an educational institution? The educational institution is the social structure concerned with the formal transmission of knowledge. It has been defined by Kendall, 2006, as the social institution responsible for the systematic transmission of knowledge, skills, and cultural values within a formally organized structure. Education as a process of learning is as old as human society. It includes teaching formal language such as reading and writing, as well as teaching other things such as morals, values, and ethics, which could be informal in nature. Education generally prepares people, both old and young, to fit into the society. Education is a means by which every society prepares its young people for a place in adult life and teaches them societal values. It serves the beneficial purpose of educating children and getting them ready to be productive adults in the society. In primitive societies and in indigenous African societies, education takes place at home with the parents and family members. However, in modern societies, education now takes place in schools. That is, education can either be formal or informal. Informal education takes place at home, in the family, while the formal education takes place in the school environment. Functions of education. Education is an important agent of socialization and encourages social integration, especially in countries with diverse population. Through schools, students from a variety of cultural backgrounds come into contact with the mainstream culture. This is not only done by teaching knowledge through books, but also teaching the society's culture, including moral values, ethics, politics, religious beliefs, habits, and norms. Furthermore, education provides occupational training. Before now, some centuries back, most jobs and trainings were passed on from father to son. However, today, most jobs require at least a secondary school education, and many professions require a first degree or postgraduate degree. In addition, education serves as a means of social control or the regulation of deviant behavior. For example, going to school every day keeps young people off the streets and from crime. Education as a socialization agent. Education plays a large part in the socialization of children into society. Socialization aims to make the child learn and conform to established norms, behavioral patterns, and societal values. In simple societies, it is done in form of training children in the appropriate forms of behavior and skills required by all members of that society. That is, it is the preparation of children for particular roles in society. In modern societies, education is the most important agent of socialization after the family. Schools are the first impersonal and collective environment that a child encounters. Whereas the school's official function is the transmission of knowledge, they also promote certain values: honesty, respect, and norms, such as not cheating during tests or examination, and punctuality. Children also learn to deal with authority figures other than their parents and with peers. The effect of education on social life. One of the effects of education on social life is the promotion and reaffirmation of culture. Africans believe strongly in according respect to elders and to whomever respect is due. Adherence to cultural expectations promotes peace among members of the society. For instance, a Yoruba boy is schooled informally to prostrate while greeting an elder, while a Yoruba girl is expected to kneel down while greeting an elderly person. However, both young and old, depending on the person's gender, are expected to prostrate or kneel, as the case may be, to greet a king, irrespective of the age of the king. Failure to do this may call for sanctions. Yoruba people from Nigeria are schooled to prostrate for elders and kings. Another effect of education on social life is the modification of behavior. Members of the society who are predisposed to behaving in an unacceptable manner in the society are corrected and cancelled both through informal and formal means. A good example of how this is done informally is the use of proverbs. Proverbs abound in Africa, and these proverbs serve various purposes. One aspect of proverbs is the corrective aspect. For instance, there is a Yoruba proverb that says, "Ishe ni ogun ishe," meaning work is the antidote for poverty. This proverb is used to caution those who are lazy in their work and or do not want to work. Education involves systematic, formal transmission of skills, knowledge, and other aspects of culture. Education has a preventive effect. For instance, in our society, there are a lot of infectious diseases that are preventable, but because of low awareness and illiteracy, quite a number of people are getting infected. However, with the right advocacy and education, the prevalence of these diseases are reduced. Through education, people are aware of how to prevent themselves from contacting diseases. A good example is HIV/AIDS. People now know what they can do or should not do to prevent getting infected with HIV/AIDS. Additionally, education has an intellectual effect on social life. It helps members of a society to think alike and solve their problems as seem appropriate. Formal schooling helps members of society to upgrade their status. Those who are born into poor homes, through formal schooling, can change their economic status. A high economic status makes members of society show a level of deference to such a person and inspires those who have not succeeded yet. BC grew up with her grandmother, who taught her several things she knew how to do well. As a little girl, Grandma taught her how to read and write, how to talk to elders, and how to clean the house. BC never went to a structured school, but she communicates with other members of the community, and she is acknowledged as one of the most well brought up children in the community. Do you consider BC as educated? If so, what kind of education has she received? It has been said that education generally prepares people, both young and old, to fit into the society. So far, BC has shown the characteristics of an educated person. The kind of education she received from her grandmother is referred to as informal education. Problems of educational institutions. Education as a social institution has certain problems. One of the major problems of formal education in our society is unequal education for young people and adolescents. The vast majority of the children in Africa whose parents cannot afford school fees in private schools attend public schools. The quality of education at public and private schools vary greatly in Africa. Private schools tend to have more modern facilities, smaller classes, and expose their pupils and students to international standard of education in order to boost their IQs and performance. This is not the case with public schools. Public schools often do not have teaching facilities. The number of pupils or students per class is normally large, and there is minimal or no exposure to international standards. Hence, those who attend private schools have a better advantage over those who attended public schools. Another problem of the educational institution is what is referred to as credentialism. This has to do with overemphasis on degrees in giving jobs or conferring social status. In our society, it is common to find a job advertisement for an unskilled work that is not connected to any academic requirement, like laundry, requesting for a secondary school certificate results. Since credentials are highly valued, individuals may go to any length to get these degrees, either by cheating their way through schools or by forging non-existing certificates. There have been instances in which some political leaders were discovered to have used forged certificates to get nominated and elected into a position only to be discovered after rigorous probes. Activity. What are the two forms education can take? Activity feedback. The two forms of education are formal and informal education. The formal education takes place in the school environment, while the informal education takes place at home, in one's family. Study session summary. In study session 6, you have learned that the educational institution is the social structure concerned with the formal transmission of knowledge, and it can either be in a formal form or an informal form. 2. Education plays certain important functions or roles in the society. 3. Education is an agent of socialization. 4. Education has some effects on social life. 5. Unequal education and credentialism are two of the problems facing the educational institution in Africa. That ends study session 6. Thank you for listening.